This is Michelle Moreland with Variety Radio Online, and I am at Comic-Con 2017, and I'm so excited. It's amazing. There's so much going on, and I have stopped by to spend a few minutes with Deryl Skelton, and I'm very excited because he is a penciler and an inker. So he covers a couple of little areas. He's done DC, he's done Marvel, he's done my favorite, as you guys already know, Star Trek. I've already went by the booth and played with the tribbles. So Deryl, tell us a little bit about just a quick second of what drew you in and what got you started.
When I was 4 years old, my mom bought me a comic book based on the television program Zorro, and it was drawn by a man named Alex Toth. Didn't know his name at the time, didn't find it out till years later. But I found that he captured the television show perfectly, and through his storytelling was able to make things figuratively move and draw you into the story. And sequential storytelling has always been a favorite of mine. And then as I grew older, I'd see painters, and you'd see that in a single painting there would be storytelling. The contemporaries that I looked at were like Norman Rockwell, and you'd see all the little details and people would be in awe, and it would tell a story. And so, especially competing with television and movies, and later on video games and so on, to be able to tell a compelling story and draw people in by using two-dimensional illustration was an interesting goal. And I always found that, as much as I wanted to be known as being a good draftsman, the idea of telling a story has always been paramount to me.
Did that, was that part of your process in doing penciling and inking, because that kind of allows you to give those two dimensions versus just penciling and then someone does the next step?
Yeah, there's always some people, like when two certain artists would get together. I, for instance, would always enjoy, no matter who penciled, to see Wally Wood's inking. And it was always amazing to me to see how you could definitely tell Wally Wood was inking, but he would never overwhelm the original penciling. Mm-hmm. And so the idea of expression, especially on something like the old Dallas TV show had a comic strip that I did for the LA Times Syndicate, and then you mentioned Star Trek The Next Generation. Whenever it would involve doing characters or actors in particular, I always felt more comfortable if I could ink it myself, because there's nuances that you have in the pencils that can't easily be picked up by an inker. And not that the inker is an inferior artist, he just doesn't have that same feel that you do. And it's hard to translate that unless you like ink it yourself.
Okay. So much has changed in the past 20 years.
Oh yeah.
With comics obviously being printed, digital, CG, what do you find the most challenging with the way the generation has changed at looking at comics?
Well, it's hard to say, because I still have the old-fashioned storytelling and so to me that's still the most important aspect. One thing that concerns me when I see going on now is the coloring, the digital coloring. There's a tendency to overwhelm the artwork, and so in some places the inker seems to be redundant because his work is obviated by the heavy coloring. Mm-hmm. And not everything has to be dark. If you're doing a Batman story or even a Spider-Man story at night, I get it. But the overwhelming use of digital color tends to be too dark for my taste, and tends to make a lot of the stories look the same. Whereas before, when there was flat color used in the old 4-color process, all of the detail, all of the textures would be in the inking stage. And so, it's not a matter of superior or inferior, because there's some wonderful artists out there today. It's just that I think coloring can be an enemy of the whole thing, because it tends to overwhelm what the artist is trying to say. And when you have scene changes, you should really have color changes and lighting changes.
Over the years, what's probably been, I know there's been many, but one that stands out to you, like obviously I'd pull Star Trek, but what is a character or a series, mini-series that you did that just has always kind of just really been heartfelt for you?
Unfortunately, some stuff that wasn't printed.
Oh.
I would do work, for instance, Jim Shooter hired me to do Spider-Man in the late 80s. Shortly afterwards, he was fired from Marvel. And so, despite the fact that I was paid for the pages, they never saw the light of day. And there were a number of projects like that. It's kind of like television. Pilots are made all the time.
Yeah.
And a lot of them don't see the light of day. The Spider-Man stuff, the Fly stuff I did over at Archie Red Circle, that had a special place for me because I grew up with a lot of these characters. And so for me to finally, after looking at Spider-Man when I was 10 years old, to finally be able to draw it was a wonderful thing. Having me not see print was sad. But, you know, there are so many more things that were printed. Those are just minor things. But the comics always tend to touch a childhood thing in you, no matter how old you get. I did a commission in Denver a couple of weeks ago. Somebody came up and they wanted me to draw the Hulk fighting the Thing. Well, I was doing that in junior high, you know.
Yeah.
And I'm a lot better now, and I got paid for it. And so I had a tendency to almost overwork it because I was having so much fun.
Yeah.
So that the artwork, I've done a lot of things besides comics, and so I bring those sensibilities into comics. But the 10-year-old in me always loves it.
I think that's part of what keeps all of us in comics to a certain extent is the child in us, wanting to see the story, wanting to see it come to life, see our hero, you know, whoever it is, Wonder Woman, Batman, whoever that might be, come to life and still be relevant to us today, you know, as adults. So
yeah, it's tricky when you translate things to other media. A lot of the movies you'll see things, and if you're going to be a comic purist, you'll say, well, he'd never do that, you know, and so. You know, you have to kind of get over that because I realized as much as I loved Spider-Man when I was 10, a lot's happened since 1963. So you have to capture the spirit of something, the nuance, as much as you can't just take a comic book and put it on the screen. However, the closest you get to that, those are the most popular movies.
I would agree. And one fan favorite is through your lifetime, with all the experience you've had out in the social light, what is your geek moment? When did you see or meet someone that you had that like, oh no, I just met so-and-so?
Oh yeah, Jack Kirby.
Okay.
I met him several times. He came to Las Vegas. I was able to go out to eat with him and his wife Roz. And it's not unique. I mean, they met thousands of people. But to sit and listen to his stories and the stuff about his life, not just comics, it was just amazing. You know, and I asked him, did you ever have a moment, you know, like that? And the one thing that he always regretted was he didn't get a chance to meet some of his idols. But you'd see him, like, for instance, he'd go to a Paul McCartney concert because Paul McCartney used some of his stuff. And to take his grandkids to that sort of thing. And yet, unlike so many others, he never lost his touch for the fans. I mean, you could have people, and I'd seen him talk to some very important people, and a little kid comes up and wants an autograph. That kid was the most important person in the world. So Jack never lost his humility, never lost his place. And in spite of an industry that was not always as generous to him as he was to them, it was an amazing thing to meet that person. And over the years, because of, I've done a lot of stuff in Las Vegas where I live, and magazine covers and so on. So I've got to meet a lot of famous people over the years. But again, geek moments, Jack Kirby, Gene Colan, Jerry Robinson, Kurt Schaffenberger, go down the list of all those old guys. And I was talking with another cartoonist, Scott Shaw, one time. We were swapping stories about some of these legends and mentioned the old guys. And he looked at me and said, we're the old guys. You know, and that's true. You know, so generationally, those geek moments, you know, come along to everybody.
Yeah.
I've had people meet me and want an autograph, and that's still, it's kind of strange to me. You know, you want to think, you know, it's just me. You know,
I'm normal.
But
I'm human.
But I understand that because there are people who stories I've done have touched some people's lives, and at the time I'm busy working on it, and I'm geeking out because I'm getting to draw what I wanted to draw, and yet there really were fans out there, and it took me a while to get used to that.
Yeah.
And a lot of people come up and say, you did my favorite X-Men story, and I look at them and I think, well, you must have been a zygote when it came out, but that's the way it goes. Every generation has its things, and when I see the humility of a Jack Kirby versus some of the younger artists, it makes a huge difference.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I know that you're going to be busy this week and having lots of fun. I truly appreciate you taking a few minutes with us.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.